Guys, welcome back. We have a new week of astrology to get into. This is a big one. This whole week is carrying a pretty heavy, energetic, and also very karmic load. Okay, we've got stuff happening, exact aspects every single day this week pretty much. We've got 2 planets changing signs. We have a rare second of 2 new moons in Virgo that is also a solar eclipse coming in at the end of this week. And we have planets opposing Saturn. In fact, the new moon in Virgo, that's also the solar eclipse, will be exactly opposite Saturn. We're talking about an eclipse window that we're in right now, a highly karmic period of time, and also a direct face-off with the planet Saturn, the Lord of Karma. So this is probably going to be a very karmic week. There could just be some very heavy energy, difficult conversations. There also, though, we do also have a rare grand trine in air signs that's going on this week. Massive mental transformation, maybe based on something that we are awakening to. Venus and Mercury change signs, and they will actually be in a mutual reception with one another. And we have an exact Mars Chiron opposition going on to get the week started that will be squared by the moon in Cancer and also will be exactly aspected by Venus in Leo. That's something else that we need to talk about in our report for today. So we have just a whole bunch of planetary activity going on this week. Could be a very busy, unusual, strange, I don't know, kind of out of control week, but I'm here to let you guys know in advance what things may be coming at you. So let's get into the report, you guys. Let's take a look at what we've got going on generally throughout the course of our week, what the overall vibe might be, and more specifically, what we have going on Monday and Tuesday as we get the week started. Welcome back to my channel, you guys. Today is Monday, September 15th, 2025. My name is Aubrey. This is your astrological outlook of the day where we are narrating the shift of the ages. And if you guys stick with me until the end of this report, I have done a collective tarot reading for us today as well. I like to tap the energy field from more than one modality whenever I'm doing these energy overviews just to get an alternative energetic perspective on what's going on out there. So there could be some messages in there for you. We're going to do that at the end. We got a whole bunch of astrology to get into this week, you guys. It is a jam-packed, loaded energy week, and that's interesting considering that this is week 2 of our 2-week window between eclipses. So clearly there's a whole bunch on universe's agenda and a whole bunch that we need to experience or accomplish or get done or go through or I don't know, interact with this week. There seems to be a lot of changes that are in the process of taking place. This really is all leading again to a point of sort of epic culmination, release, breakdown, transcendence, transformation. We have, as I mentioned in my intro, quite a combination of tricky activations, transits taking place out there this week. But one thing that we do have going on, and I think it's on either Wednesday or Thursday, I'll tell you specifically as we move through the report, but we also have, in the midst of all of these more just heavy, difficult transits, a grand trine in air signs that's going to be playing out as Mercury enters the sign of Libra and forms exact trine to both Uranus and Pluto in Gemini and Aquarius. This is something, you guys. So while there may be kind of just an energetic vibration that is bringing us down or weighing heavy on us or narrowing our focus on everything that's wrong and all the reasons why things aren't working out in our favor right now or something, we do have this energy that is persistently speaking to this very both like awakening and transformative mental process that is underway somehow. We have just finished having, you know, these South Node activations, the Mercury Sun Cazimi that went on in the sign of Virgo, ruled by Mercury with the South Node. This whole past week has been about like changing our mind, changing our thought patterns, changing the way that we're seeing things. And then right in the middle of that window period of time, we also then have this grand trine in air come through, featuring that same specific planet, Mercury, who rules our mind and our thoughts and our thought patterns and how we're thinking about things. Hitting Uranus, that energy that brings awakening and change, and also Pluto that brings subconscious transformation, and in the sign of Aquarius, like awakening and transcendence, while we also then have this solar eclipse coming in exactly opposite Saturn in the very last degrees of the sign of Pisces, about being at the end of something, releasing some karmic pattern or some karmic burden. So I don't know, you guys. I've been saying, and I will continue to say, I feel like we are at a true point of a definite transition. Something about the way that we have been thinking or living or just like operating is being like altered or edited or systemically reprogrammed or changed somehow. We may see it in small ways, just in more minute areas of our individual lives. We may see it in terms of like broad, sweeping, major changes taking place on a more macrocosm or world stage level. But it's probably going to be an interesting week. Now, do I think it's going to be an easy, fun time week? For some people, maybe. For the majority of the collective, there's probably going to be some issues that are coming up. I mean, we do start the week with an exact Mars-Chiron opposition, which we're going to be talking a lot about in the report for today. That is often not necessarily the most like gentle, pleasant energy, although I will say the placement of Venus right now is actually perfect to sort of like soothe and smooth out the sharp edges of that transit, although it could be doing some other things too that we're going to be talking about in the report for the day. But you know, as we move towards these oppositions with Saturn, like that is something generally weighing on us, that is something heavy, with Saturn retrograding in the end of Pisces right now in a conjunction to Neptune as well. That could be things spinning out or spiraling out of control or just like feeling overwhelming. And of course, the moon is involved in a lot of these more challenging aspects this week as well, which can cause us to feel them more strongly than we may if the moon wasn't involved. So there are, you know, some challenges that we may be definitely dealing with this week, but there is also, again, like this tremendous opportunity to break cycles, to make changes, and it does, again, seem to be stemming from the way that we are thinking about things. There could be something very like flash of insight, sudden epiphany, like, oh my God, I'm suddenly seeing the truth about something, like secrets revealed, things that have been hidden, exposed in the energy of this week. But we also need to be very careful, you guys, because another thing that's happening literally at the exact same time is Mercury opposing Neptune, the sun opposing Neptune. That makes things very hard to trust. That can really cloud our judgment. That can really distort our perception of things. That can make it easy to sort of like project an illusion in a way that seems quite real but is not. And my recommendation for this week, you guys, is divine counsel should be perhaps the only counsel, and is definitely the best counsel this week. I would be very, very skeptical of any type of like official narrative or official story or like announcements that are coming from officialdom or from the boss or from, you know, leadership or who's in charge. Because of Saturn ruling and representing authority, retrograde in the very end of Pisces right now, in a conjunction to Neptune, that to me speaks to, and then when we add the opposition to Mercury, like that's the messenger planet, that's the communications that are coming through. There is a very enhanced opportunity for messaging to be distorted, coming like from higher ups, okay, this week. So maybe just something to be mindful of, something to keep in mind. Now, that being said, and for that reason as well, things being unclear, things being unknown, things being dishonest or out of control may also characterize the nature, maybe specifically of information, but also maybe like directions or rules or orders or news that we're being exposed to, conversations that are going on for one reason or another. With the mercurial opposition that is coming in to Saturn and Neptune, this is not going to be, again, the most like rational or logic-minded week, but it is a good week to keep our focus on our faith. There is a detachment from reality that is, you know, already going on somehow, and staying focused on the vision, not giving up or giving in to seemingly like painful or difficult experiences. I think if we try and orient ourselves or frame things in our mind this way, we may just have more success navigating this upcoming energy. So let me list to you guys all of the transits that we've got coming through this week and the themes that are, you know, present alongside of them. And then we will get more specific about Monday and Tuesday and what we have playing out when and how it may be impacting the introduction to our week. So first of all, as we open the week, as I've already mentioned, the main story is this opposition that we've got going on between Mars and Chiron. Mars is in the sign of Libra right now. Chiron, wounded healer, teacher, master archetype, is in the sign of Aries. And we have been talking about this energy. I talked about it in the videos last week as we were building into the exact activation, which does come in on Tuesday and Wednesday of this week. So that's number one. Number two, we have Venus in Leo right now. Coincidentally, it happens to be also exactly aspecting both Mars and Chiron. So they hit the exact opposition, as I said, on Tuesday and Wednesday of this week. And on Monday and Tuesday of this week, we have Venus exactly sextiling Mars in Libra, which is her sign, and also trining Chiron and Aries. We've got a fire sign trine going on between Venus and Chiron. So that is coloring, I think, to an extent, the way that we may be experiencing this Mars-Chiron opposition, especially considering that Mars is in Libra, which is ruled by Venus. So we're going to be talking about that. Number three, we also have the moon, as I mentioned earlier, in the sign of Cancer. Monday and Tuesday specifically will square both Chiron and Mars in their opposition. So Tuesday, we're going to have a cardinal square going on from the moon in the sign of Cancer. Remember, the moon in Cancer will also be conjoining Jupiter, who is also in the sign of Cancer, on Tuesday as well. And this could be a sensitive point in the week, this cardinal square going on. Again, the moon is our emotions and our feelings in the sign of Cancer. This is already an emotionally sensitive placement, but then when we put it in the square to Chiron and Mars, people could be feeling attacked. There could be some emotional wounding going on. We're going to talk more about it as we get through the report, but we do have that dynamic amplifying what we've already got at play with the Chiron-Mars opposition as well. Wednesday, number 4, this may be a more critical day, maybe the most critical day of the week, I would say. We still have the exact Mars-Chiron opposition taking place. The moon will have left Cancer but entered the sign of Leo and will be forming an exact opposition to Pluto. Mercury, who is ruling the position of the sun and the south node right now, is also going to be an exact opposition to Saturn on Wednesday. So this could be sort of like a pressure point or a trigger point or a sore spot somehow with that particular combo of planetary activity going on. Number 5, on Thursday, Mercury leaves Virgo, enters Libra. We've got a vibe shift taking place, and Mercury prepares to form an exact opposition to Neptune and an exact trine to both Pluto and Uranus in the sign of Aquarius, which does come exact in the energy of Friday. We're going to have that exact grand air trine, but we also have the opposition to Neptune. Be careful what you're believing. Be careful what you're buying into. However, be very open-minded and don't be surprised if you are just totally shocked by something in a way that kind of like transforms you to your core. That is what this type of energy may potentially bring. Friday could be a very strange, unusual, wild, or even like special day for some reason. Very unique energy blueprint we've got going on Friday. This is also the day on Friday that Venus changes signs. Venus leaves Leo and enters Virgo. Now that is Mercury's sign. She's traveling with the moon as well on Friday, and will immediately come into a square with Uranus. There could definitely be some shakeups, you guys. There could be some shocking news. There could be some interpersonal or partnership or financial or like deal-based negotiation, legal outcome decisions, something like that, based shakeups maybe that take place in the energy of Friday. Again, strange day, and there could be something just like almost like magical about it somehow. But now that we are going to have Mercury and Venus in a mutual reception with one another, this actually perhaps should make people a bit nicer, or just should turn up the charm a little bit, or make people a little bit like more eloquent in the way that they're communicating things for some reason. On Saturday, number 7, we have Venus and Uranus square exactly. The moon will also be in Virgo with the south node and the sun, and 1 degree out of exact opposition to Saturn. So relationship shakeups, you guys, and again, a very karmic energy that we've got going on Saturday. Of course, we'll talk about it more as we move through the week. And then on Sunday, we do have new moon in Virgo, number 2, which is the solar eclipse and exactly opposes Saturn. So that is this heavy energy, this very, very karmic energy that we are also building into. And as you can see, that is a lot to be taking place over the course of 1 week. Chiron, Mars, Venus, and Saturn, I would say, are our primary planetary themes for the week. This is therefore, because of the Saturn dominance here, likely to be a more serious natured week. We could just feel maybe even like more withdrawn or overwhelmed by something. Saturn is not operating also at his full strength, like by any means, in the very last few degrees of the sign of Pisces and retrograde. So this could be like things, again, feeling out of control, like nothing can be contained, or an inability to set boundaries or to keep things within the lines, or to like manage the outcomes maybe in the way that we would like. So that type of thing could be presenting a struggle. There could also be active efforts to mediate, negotiate, resolve, or heal or remedy something taking place in this specific energy. And it could be financially oriented as well, or it could have to do with reciprocity or re-establishing balance, or the appearance of balance somehow. Another thing that I want to say, and I'm gonna say this a couple more times as we move through the report, but it is kind of like standing out to me. There could be something about this energy that like almost prefers to smooth things over or gloss things over as a remedy in order to create the appearance of something being healed or some peace being reestablished or regained somehow, as opposed to like addressing the real issue, like the image of balance or the image of justice or the image of peace being more important than like actual true balance or actual true remedy or actual true justice or actual true peace. Okay, and I will describe why as we get through the report, but that's just another theme that for some reason seems relevant or could be being expressed the way that these particular energetic combinations are coming together this week. As we move through the week though, there is a lot of information and thoughts that are going to become distorted, unclear, confusing, incorrect, okay? As Mercury prepares to come into the opposition with Neptune. It's like fog of war type of energy as well. Like just be skeptical and pay attention to the details in terms of whatever like news or information you may be basing your judgments and opinions off of. With Chiron opposite Mars also, of course, as highlight this week, it could be a more violent week. All right, like that may be and can be a stronger likelihood when we've got these two planets aspecting each other like this. And it also references things that may have gone on in the end of May of 2024 when Mars and Chiron made their conjunction. We are halfway through a cycle that began on, I think it was May 29th of 2024. So there could have been something going on then that reaches a peak now for some reason, or just things that are going on now could be a throwback to or a reference to things that took place then. So perhaps something to just be mindful of as well. With Mars in Libra opposite Chiron in Aries, this is also putting a highlight on themes having to do with perhaps self versus others, how we feel maybe other people have wounded us in the past or wounded our ego somehow, or how relationships themselves maybe have diminished our sense of self-worth or our sense of self or our own self-perception in some way somehow. Because Mars in the sign of Libra is about other people. Mars is about the self. Chiron is the wounded healer, teacher, master archetype. This is where we often experience some of our most painful lessons, we can put it that way. And in the sign of Aries, that of course is the sign of the self, opposite Mars and Libra. It's like how the aggression or violence or even just like the action or activities of other people perhaps have in the past, Chiron retrograde, caused some type of wounding to our own sense of self. Okay, that's like where I'm drawing that from. And so those could be very relevant or valid themes that are coming up this week with those two planets in those two signs in exact opposition like that. This is also another week where, again, like Saturn retrograding in the sign of Pisces being highlighted while we've got eclipse energy going on. It could feel like things are coming apart. We are being deeply urged and cosmically assisted to change our thinking, transform the way that we are processing information or like how we're seeing things for some reason, to recognize also the power of our mind combined with our faith, combined with our vision. This is a powerful tool that universe is trying to bring to our attention right now as well. And again, a good week to seek divine counsel if it just feels like nothing on the ground is making sense. You're not going to, again, like this is energy, you know, where they say trust the experts. Like this is a particular energy where that may not be the best choice, because it just looks like the expert class, or, you know, the people in charge, management, government, bosses, authority figures generally may either be misunderstanding and miscommunicating themselves, or are hiding something for some reason, or are at a loss for some reason, or have some duty or obligation to like uphold an image, or again, like maintain peace or establish peace somehow without like really healing or solving or fixing the problem. So you know, that's and with the north node in the sign of Pisces right now, Jupiter in the sign of Cancer also trining the north node, like, and the moon in Cancer also with Jupiter. That is like trusting our intuition. That is faith really being the only accurate tool for guiding us in this moment, like our connection to a higher power, like the divine guidance that may come through, what our intuition is telling us, not whatever, you know, this person in a place of authority is saying. So I don't know, that may be playing into like things that you've got going on for some reason somehow this week, but it's definitely a thing. So that is basically my rundown and synopsis for the week as a whole, and all the energies that we do have coming up and coming at us, which of course, again, we're going to get more into as we move through the rest of the videos this week. But now let's specifically take a closer look at Monday and Tuesday, what we've got taking place to get our week started. It may be... we have another slow start to the week, you guys. I know I said that last Monday was also kind of a slow start to the week and a good day to sleep in if you could. But this week also may be just like kind of hard to get our head in the game, shake ourselves out of it, like exit the dream world. We do start the day on Monday with the moon in the early degrees of the sign of Cancer, forming a square to Neptune in the sign of Aries. This could also be, you know, staying in bed or staying at home, just feeling so much more appealing than whatever it is that we've got to get up and do out in the world. So if you can gradually ease into the day, you may find it to be a more pleasant experience. This should clear though. This kind of like fog that we're in should lift as we move through the day and the moon continues to transit through the sign of Cancer and widens the orb between, you know, Cancer, moon, Neptune, because Neptune is the fog and the dream world and sleep and, you know, the illusion and stuff like that. So it could just be a bit of a process to wake up on Monday, but you know, as I said, as we move throughout the day, this should definitely clear, and we do have a more optimistic energy that is incoming as the moon in Cancer continues to move through Cancer and move into a conjunction with Jupiter. Again, the moon in the end of Cancer is going to do a few other things, and we'll talk about it as we move into the energy of Tuesday, but this should elevate or lift our spirits somehow. We also have Mars and Venus exactly sextile on Monday and Tuesday this week, as I've already told you. And this aspect is actually a lot about creative activities, reciprocity, positive relations with others, collaboration. Like, it's a great day to work on something with another person, you know, partnership dynamic as a part of a group somehow, especially maybe in the context of that Chiron energy going on over there as well. Healing, resolving, or Mars in the sign of Libra, mediating, negotiating something. So the interpersonal, relational component of things really should be quite positive, should work quite well. However, this is also the same energy where I'm urging, you know, maybe just a little bit of caution in terms of buying everything that everyone is saying to you, because this could also have the impact of like someone eloquently or charmingly offering some type of superficial remedy for something, you know, trying to smooth things over in a way that might like stop the conflict or keep the peace, but like doesn't resolve or address the root of the problem that like really actually needs to be healed. So, you know, while I do appreciate the Venus dimension of things, and I'll touch more on this when I get to the energy of Tuesday, it can make things as I was discussing earlier, more about the appearance of or the image of healing when we've got Venus in the trine to Chiron and the sextile to Mars, while Mars and Chiron are in the opposition, and also Mercury opposed Saturn as well. Remember, that is also not the whole, true, honest, full story about things. So really, like, that particular combination right there, Mercury opposing Saturn and Neptune, Saturn retrograde in Pisces conjunct Neptune in Aries, while we have Venus exactly trine Chiron, exactly sextile Mars in the sign of Libra, while Mars and Chiron are opposite one another. It just could be more about seeking the appearance of peace and healing rather than actually like taking accountability and making sure that the root issue, the core of the problem, is like being solved and addressed. But it could also very, very much to the same extent be an active process of heart healing that is going on. Like, a lot of this is going, I mean, Venus is in the sign of Leo as well. That has to do with the heart. This could really have to do with relationships, romantic relationships, specifically with Venus and Leo, creative partnerships and stuff like that. So very much there could be a huge energy of like active heart healing, actively healing from things, from a broken heart, or like things that have hurt our heart previously in relationships. Or it could be like this avoidance of honest accountability in order to reestablish like the perception of peace or healing or wholeness or balance or harmony or something like that somehow. It is very, very creative though. Venus sextile Mars, very creative energy with Chiron there. This is channeling pain creatively is going to have a very therapeutic and healing quality to it as well. So that may be a way that you want to kind of like orient things or take things if you are feeling the impact of the Chiron energy and things are weighing heavy on you, and you know, are maybe experiencing some pain or suffering that goes on this week. Channeling it creatively could be very helpful for some reason. There could also be something about the nature of connection with others. Again, going back to what I was just saying about how there's a very like beneficial collaborative energy going on. There could be healing that comes through some union or reunion or connection or meeting or conversation or interaction with other people that goes on. And again, with Mercury and Venus also going to be in a mutual reception, talking about things with a friend may really help this week. So even if you are feeling the need to kind of like withdraw and isolate, which could be a strong urge with the Saturnian oppositions coming in, there could be some benefit that does come through getting together with somebody and just saying what's on your mind, saying what's in your heart. So that's Monday, you guys, you know, kind of tiptoeing, easing, wading into the day, but there is an expanding emotional energy that comes as we move through the day, and the moon moves through the sign of Cancer and begins to come into a conjunction with Jupiter. And that is where we leave off Monday, pick up in the energy of Tuesday. I do think Tuesday is probably going to be a more intense emotional day, and we're probably going to be feeling the general nature of the overall vibes this week more strongly and more intensely on Tuesday. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we're really in the thick of these energetic combinations that we have coming through this week. Tuesday, we have 4 planets at 26 degrees, so that may be of relevance for some reason. Mars at 26 Libra, Venus at 26 Leo, Chiron at 26 Aries, Mercury at 26 Virgo. And I mean, 5 actually, if we include the moon, there's that 5 number of dynamic change. The moon will be at 26 degrees of Cancer throughout the course of the day as well as the moon transits through the sign of Cancer. The moon will conjoin Jupiter, the moon will square Chiron and Mars, and the moon will also sextile the sun and Mercury in the sign of Virgo. So there could be a lot happening on Tuesday. The moon's making a lot of aspects. I often find when the moon makes a lot of aspects that we have a lot that's just kind of like playing out throughout the course of the day. Something about the nature of information that is being revealed could also be of primary highlight or significance on Tuesday. Also, this Mars Chiron energy is again being strongly emphasized. Of course, Mars and Chiron, Mars is our energy, this is our behavior, this is the action-oriented nature of things generally, and Chiron, this is the wounded healer, teacher, master archetype. This energy can be about an active process of either healing or wounding, energy channeled into wounds or healing from wounds. This can be a painful or vulnerable or traumatic or victim-oriented energy with the moon in square as well. This could be very, very emotionally sensitive, very emotionally touchy, and it can also, though, bring a personal motivation to heal, to learn, to recover, and to break cycles. So it really can go either way depending where we kind of are personally in terms of like our own healing processes at the moment. But the fact that, you know, Mars is in Libra, is also in the exact sextile to Venus, while Venus also trines Chiron, I do think is softening this to an extent. As I mentioned earlier, it should make things more lean more towards the healing heart energy, again, especially with Venus and Leo, restoring the peace, than maybe actively experiencing some type of pain. So I think Venus's presence here is generally a good thing. This also, though, does then bring in the emphasis on what Venus represents to an even greater extent. Of course, with Mars in the sign of Libra, this was already referring to, as I mentioned earlier, themes of self versus others, relationship dynamics, partnership dynamics, but with Venus now directly involved, this is definitely probably going to emphasize relationships, finances, legal situations, deals, negotiations, partnerships, projects, resources, assets, things to do with wealth, worth, value, money, financial situations generally. Chiron is also an energy that can be financially oriented, and with Venus and Chiron both in the trine together, that just to me like amplifies the like financial end of the way that energy could be manifesting to an even greater extent. People may be spending money to actively heal something, budgets or purchases related to health or healing or remedies somehow, or this could just be like, you know, the price of healing or the price of wisdom or the price of balance or justice or peace being a highlight or being something that we're talking about or discussing or that is extra relevant for one reason or another. Or again, this could be about creating the appearance of something in order to like establish peace or to reharmonize or to rebalance something. It could also be, though, about messages or announcements, again, like from authority or official statements coming through about something. But it being more for show or to create the appearance of an outcome, maybe even out of some duty or obligation or responsibility or like loss of control somehow, with Mercury in Virgo with the South Node and the Sun as the midpoint between Venus and Mars is in their sextile, Mercury also in the opposition to Saturn and Neptune. Authority losing control of the narrative somehow, seeking to resolve that through some type of portrayal. So I think I've addressed that enough. Not going to talk about it anymore, but it is probably also going to be a day of active response, healing, recovery, wounding, or perhaps even victimization. Violence can be more likely to occur in energy such as this, especially, again, having to do with relationships or finances. The degrees where the Mars-Chiron opposition take place, as I told you, 26 degrees of Aries and Libra. In terms of the symbolism associated with these degrees, we look at 27 degrees of Aries and Libra because we always round up a degree when we consider the symbolic placement of any planet, because we read the wave of energy that's coming in, not the energy that is dissipating and waning. So with Mars at 26 degrees of Libra, we read 27 degrees of Libra. That Sabian symbol is an airplane hovering overhead, and Chiron is at 27 degrees of Aries. Through imagination, a lost opportunity is regained. So seek the bird's eye view, the broader perspective, the bigger picture this week, you guys, which is funny because that's like totally contradictory to what the natural inclination is going to be with Mercury opposite Saturn. That like really narrows our focus, especially with Mercury in the sign of Virgo. That is like a failure complex. That is like only being able to see and perceive that which is not right. Every little detail that is out of order for one reason or another, just like really bothering us, it very much narrows our focus on the flaws in things, okay? Criticism, judgment, like this is the struggle when we've got a Mercury Saturn opposition taking place. But like this Mars Chiron is telling us, the airplane hovering overhead, the through imagination, the lost opportunity is regained. Also the Jupiter energy trying the North Node right now, like the more that we can do to maintain a broader perspective, despite, again, the inclination to do the exact opposite, this is probably going to help keep us from being so pessimistic or depressed or critical or judgmental this week. There could also be something really weird maybe that goes on with travel, maybe specifically air travel with this grand trine and air signs that we've got coming up this week, and those particular placements in terms of the symbols of the Mars Chiron opposition. With the moon in Cancer conjunct Jupiter, squaring Mars and Chiron, cardinal signs, there could be some big or supersized or overblown emotional responses or emotional wounds that we are dealing with as well. This could definitely factor into whatever's going on Tuesday. Jupiter in Cancer is also sextiling the Sun and Mercury and the South Node. It could have to do with what we're letting go of, what we're losing, what we're moving on from, what we are changing, or maybe also some difficult news or information or a conversation that we have, or something that we are processing or receiving somehow. This could also reference a strong, again, sense of intuition, faith, internal knowing, internal wisdom, hope, as some part of an active healing process that's underway. That would be the absolute best way to use this energy, that broadened perspective, that divine counsel that helps us to release ourselves from something that has just been needing to be changed or released for a long period of time, because really that is what this is all about. This energy, this eclipse cycle, this eclipse season is trying to assist us in breaking some karmic cycles, specifically related to our thought patterns that have been preventing us from moving in the direction we need to move in, making the changes that we need to make, aligning with what we need to align with, upgrading our lives in the way that is truly like suitable and meant for us right now at this period of time. Universe is trying to assist us in making some changes that we've been needing to make for a while by helping us to break cycles that have been preventing us from making those changes. But that doesn't mean that just because we've got, cosmic assistance going on, that it's going to be an easy or clear or secure feeling process. So that's Tuesday, though, you guys. It could be, again, like a very emotionally sensitive, maybe a bit emotionally triggered day. There is an opportunity, very much so, to heal from something, to cut ourselves loose from something, to be released from something. But be careful what you are putting your faith in this week. If it is not directly related to your relationship with a higher power, it is almost like there could be some pressure for things to look a certain way or to be presented a certain way, whether or not they really are. And Wednesday, Thursday, of course, we are, really even in more of the thick of this type of energy, and that is where we will be picking back up in the next video. So that is what I have to say today, you guys, about the astrology, what we've got going on in terms of our planetary energy out there. In terms of the tarot, we've got a tarot reading to get into now. There's something being described here about the stability or the certainty or an inability maybe to let go of something, and or the need to hold on to something. And also the concept of like perhaps things, movement, progress coming slow, feeling slow, happening slowly this week. I do think that this is ultimately saying hold on to your vision, okay? Like if there's something that you're trying to build or establish or to manifest or form in the reality right now, don't give up on it, okay? You may not see results at this point in time. I wouldn't expect you to either during or within an eclipse window. That is not, especially when we've got Saturn and Neptune, you know, conjunct, and Saturn retrograding in Pisces with the oppositions coming in this week. Like I would not expect to see like tangible, concrete results going on physically, materially around you, and it may lead to a sense of discouragement. But I kind of feel like the message here is like to hold on, to keep going, to not give up, to not like throw in the towel because it seems as though maybe like nothing is happening, or we're staying stagnant, or like not moving forward somehow. There is progress happening. We are moving towards something. Something is coming into fruition. There is something that is being built, even if we can't necessarily see it right now. So it's slow and steady progress when we've got a Knight of Pentacles going on. And with the Four of Pentacles, that is what we are unwilling to let go of. And with the Four of Wands, that is stability and security and like inner peace and balance, and maybe even a sense of celebration. So that combination of energies could be relevant to you somehow this week as well. Now we are going to get one final card, you guys. I'm going to get us a synchronicity card. I'm going to ask God, Spirit, Universe for one final piece of guidance or advice. What will it benefit us to keep in mind as we move through our week? And our card says seek the spirit, which seeking divine counsel. I feel like I specifically said those words a couple of times in our report for today, and that is also what our guidance from on high, guidance from above, that is also what our divine counsel is recommending. Seek the spirit. There is no power but of God. Romans 13:1. This is, I think, going to be a very relevant message. When you have a problem, become aware of the power of God to help you. There is no power but that of God. Seek the Spirit of God within you. Do not give power to others to affect you or the situation. Know that God is there for you, already solving this problem. Find joy in your heart with this knowledge. God is there for you. There is no problem God cannot handle. So I think that basically sums it up, you guys. That is our synchronicity message for today. Message from the stars, message from the cards. I hope you guys liked the video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel, you guys. Share it with your friends if you think that they would enjoy this type of astrology content as well. Leave me comments. Let me know what's going on with you out there. If you are having experiences that line up with or reflect what I am discussing in this video or any of these other videos, drop me a comment. Let me know. That is very valuable information to me. If you want to know what's on this whiteboard, I have a Facebook group that is linked in my description box below, where I post full images of those boards. So if you want to see the full thing, that's where you can find it. And come back with me on Wednesday, you guys. Of course, we've got a lot more energy that we're going to be jumping into. Wednesday and Thursday, we've got shifting vibes, Venus and Mercury both changing signs, and some more of this tricky energy to navigate. And I will be back with our guidebook on how to make the best of it. So you don't want to miss it. I will see you next time, you guys. Have a beautiful introduction to your week. And until then, bye.